Welcome to the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast.
My name is Jen Clark.
And I'm Elke Clark. We are a mother-daughter team who started our Zazzle e-commerce businesses over 10 years ago and have sold $15 million and counting of products on Zazzle with our designs on them.
We had so many people asking us how we did this, so we created our signature course, the Profit by Design Academy, which teaches our 5 strategies for success on Zazzle.
When we aren't helping creative entrepreneurs just like you create profitable e-commerce businesses, we love cooking food from places all over the world that we've traveled to, jet setting to our next dream destination, spending quality time with our close friends and family, or having fun creating our next bestsellers in our Zazzle businesses.
In this podcast, we share actionable steps you, the creative, can take to make money in your e-commerce business on Zazzle. Each episode will take you one step closer to achieving freedom with your time, location, and finances.
We believe that you can have anything you dream of, as long as you work smarter, not harder. And we're here to give you the tools you need to make your dreams happen. Let's get started. Well, hey there, it's Elke, and yes, I am flying solo today. Usually Jennifer is with me as my co-partner in another episode for the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast. So let's get started with today's topic, which is near and dear to my heart. It's all about being scared of sales and how you can overcome the sales fear. I'm really excited to get into this. I have a lot of notes with this one because I don't want to miss anything. And it's really important that you hear this. If you think, oh, it's okay, I don't have any sales fears, it's not true. There's something there that you need to watch out for within this podcast where you will see that might resonate with you and it might actually ring true to you, including like fear of success, which is really interesting because that's what happened to me when I first started on Zazzle. First of all, just before we get into the points, I'm a really big introvert. Like, I didn't even want people to know who I was. I just wanted to sell or make money, but I didn't really want to be totally involved in the sales process that got me to 6 and 7 figures. And so that was a big learning for me. And that's why this one's a near and dear podcast to my heart. And I'm going to really dive deep and hopefully it'll help you not just hold yourself back, but also allow yourself to shine and excel and really crush it with regards to sales, okay? All right, so my points that I'm going to cover today are what's the real fear, not just the fear of sales, and also what lies are you telling yourself about selling, and then what happens when you do tell yourself these lies and how that can affect you. And then, of course, we've got to get to the how do you overcome that, right? So that'll be point number 4. And in terms of being able to do some concrete things that you can do now in order to help you overcome these fears so you can start selling on the Zazzle platform. So let's just start right from the beginning and just do an overview. And it's like, how is this possible that we're afraid of sales when actually that's what we want? We want to make money. And how does that happen? We make sales on the Zazzle platform. And that's, if you're listening to this and you don't actually know what Zazzle is, it's a platform where sellers can go and create and upload designs online, put them on these blank products that Zazzle has to sell. And then it looks like you're selling this product with a design on it in the Zazzle marketplace. And then when it sells, Zazzle prints it, takes care of everything, and pays you a royalty that you've set as your certain royalty. So it's a really fun way to make some money online in the e-commerce space, especially since there's very little in terms of external things involved that you would normally have to deal with, like in terms of if you have a Shopify store or do direct shipping or anything like that. But it does still involve you creating unique and individual designs that are going to surpass all those billions of products that are already on the Zazzle marketplace. You have to kind of percolate to the top of the popularity by actually getting noticed and then sold. And that's how you make your money, because the royalty is what gets paid out, but only if you make a sale. And then we're afraid of sales, right? We as creatives, especially me, when I first started, it's like, I love being creative, but I don't want to like be salesy. It's really awkward for me. I can't figure this out. Like, I'm not a salesperson. You know, when you're creative, you're not supposed to be a salesperson. You're supposed to be creative. And then it only dawned on me how much of an oxymoron that is, because it's like I wanted something, and the only way to get it was to actually do the one thing that scared the heck out of me. And so let's move into this in great detail. And I know now that you probably resonate with what I just said, it is a possibility. There's life after scared and fear, because I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to talk about that after, but I'm going to walk you through to just even help you identify where you fit in and what may be happening with this process of you achieving or receiving. Like, we can say you're making a sale, but really what you're doing is receiving money for a service. And that service is your Zazzle product that you're selling, right? And the person who's buying it is actually going to be really happy, and you have served them. It's not that you have to like wait tables or do their taxes or something. It's not an actionable step, but it's because of the way you've made the design, you are serving a need that they want to have fulfilled. And so you're still doing a service. And that service, like if you said, now I'm going to mow your neighbor's lawn, you expect payment, right? Whereas for some reason, when we are putting our creative designs up on the Zazzle Marketplace, something doesn't trigger that this is also a service. Instead, triggers, oh, I hope they like my stuff. And if they do, then I'll make money from it. And that is a really bad way to actually understand that process of the sales process. So what I want to do is just go through this here and go in more detail about what's the real fear. And I kind of touched on it because the way we put our products up, and then with the designs up on these products, and then the way we expect the sales, and then the way we react when we don't get sales is actually that emotional rejection that we're getting. So what we're really fearing when we're trying to sell is actually the fear of rejection through lack of sales. And I'm smiling with this because I get it now. But back then it was like, that's not true. I'm perfectly confident with my designs, but boy, oh boy, was I not happy after a week of no sales, or a month of no sales, or a year of no sales. In my first year on Zazzle, I only made $90. And now, I'm way over $1 million. And along with Jennifer and her income, the two of us have made over $1.5 million income off of that. That's our royalty, not our sales. And so when I made $90 in my first year and I worked 9 to 5 or even 9 to 12 and just thought I was doing the right thing and never making a sale, boy, was I in this fear of rejection, because I was so rejected at that point. And I didn't, like, as much as I tried, I also didn't try anymore because I was so overwhelmed by the fact of I was going to continue to fail. I was going to continue to be rejected so that people wouldn't buy my stuff and I would make that royalty. So that was me. So how about you? So are you afraid that someone won't like you because you're trying to sell them something, right? Because I actually did this work on Zazzle. I was hoping for so much money, but I never told anybody about it. So I never said, hey, look at my stuff. Do you want to buy this? I was so afraid of that because I didn't want them to feel like they were getting sold to, even though that's what I needed. I needed that for my livelihood. And I also didn't feel like they should be pressured into me, like me telling them. They should see it on their own, which seems so ridiculous now. But then they should just buy it, but not because it was mine, but because they liked it, right? So if you feel that way, if you're afraid that someone won't like you anymore because you're pressuring them to sell something to them, then this is your fear of rejection. It's not because of that actual reason. It's because you feel like if you ask them that question, you might actually get a no, right? Okay, what about if you're afraid that your image will be ruined because, and this is not your image that you post on Zazzle, but your own personal status image will be ruined because you'll be considered too salesy. Because have you ever tried to sell, like even suggest something like, well, you could buy this if you want to, and it's okay if you don't, but it'd be really awesome if you did, and I'd really appreciate it. And then by that point, you're already going to like, ooh, maybe I've said too much. Maybe I'm too pushing them, right? So you're trying to be nice and you're trying to sort of suggest it. But then in the end, what you're doing is you're actually starting to feel more and more nervous that you're getting too pushy. And you don't just come right out ever and say things like, this is awesome. You should buy this. And if you don't, I won't be your friend anymore. Like, that's a threat even. But like, you're not going to be that pushy. But even when we're not pushy, we feel like we're being pushy or salesy. And we don't want to have our relationship with that person that we're asking, because it's usually our family or our friends that when we first get started that are going to be our biggest champions, right? So we're talking to them about it, but then we don't actually ask for a sale. Or even if we find that someone has come to ask us about, this is what I need. And you go like, guess what? I actually have this. I sell on Zazzle and I do this. And you would really love this design. You'd never actually feel comfortable doing that initially in case they didn't like it or in case they thought you were being too pushy. It's such an odd thing as the sales psychology when it comes to selling to people that you know, right? You can sell something to someone you don't know easily. But when you sell to someone that you do know, you're very worried about your own reputation. And then we get to the point where we're so stressed, we actually also feel that we're getting, even if we don't know the person and we're putting ourselves out there on social media and we're not really, people still know us because we're on social media, even though they don't really know us, it's just social media. But then that your brand could get ruined, or maybe people wouldn't go to your Instagram account anymore. And so these things are all related to your worry that you're going to have your image ruined because you're pushing a sale, which is really crazy, but it's true. It's because that's our image is near and dear to our heart, right? Okay, so if you've resonated with either of those two, that's awesome because we're on the right track. This is obviously what you need to keep listening to this podcast so you can get help. What about if you're afraid that people will say no and they won't buy your Zazzle product and it'll hurt your artist ego or your emotions? Well, that's happened to me many times, right? You guys like, it's okay, no problem. In the meantime, it's like, oh, my stuff is terrible. Obviously, I'm not an artist. I can't handle this. It's too stressful. I won't ask anyone else because that really hurt. So if that's what happens to you, then that is definitely something you have to get over because you're never going to make a cent, right? So you have to ask for that yes, even if it's no initially. All right, you're afraid that there are no sales, then you're not good at designing. A creative not worthy of making money, even though you want to earn a living being creative, right? So you can see how all these are starting to tie in, but they're all very separate points as well. Because one is you as an artist going like, okay, my stuff's good. And then all of a sudden no one wants to buy it. It's like, ooh. So now you're doubting yourself. But then when it gets to the point where you're so enthralled in the Zazzle process and you've put so many products up and there's still no sale, then you start to go like, I really wanted to do this as a living, and the possibility seems to be less and less and less. And this is actually what happens to a lot, happened actually to a lot of our top selling students now. And so you have to just get over this fear. The reason is not because this is a real fear. It's because you have yet to put the things in place that will change that situation so you no longer have that fear. And the last part here is if you are an introvert like me, putting yourself out there is just so traumatic to start with. And your image and your brand is already pretty scary that you've had to create. And then the lack of sales just creates that further rejection as like a slap in the face. That's like, see, you shouldn't put yourself out there. And you start to cocoon back in. And it's a real fear. I'm making a little bit of fun of it because I want you to make a little bit of fun of it because it's so serious for us, but we can't keep being that serious about it. We have to get over ourselves a little bit, at least. Still have to honor our space and how we want to align on the Zazzle platform to work our business the way we want to work our business. But if you can't make the money and the introvert tendencies are keeping us back and the ego is keeping us back and the depression and anxiety that sets in if we say, oh, we wanted to make money on this, doing this business, and now we can't, and we started working ourselves into a frenzy, all of that is obviously counterproductive, and it's not helpful at all for you and for me, because that's where I was initially, and now I've got over that to be able to just move forward and start making sales nicely, routinely, and in a great quantity, because that means we get paid. All right. So how does this translate into the lies that you tell yourself? Because we just covered these 5 points of what really, truly it means. It's like the fear of rejection through lack of sales. And this is how that rejection gets manifested in those 5 ways. But now what about the lies that you can tell yourself because of these fears? So what I've written down here is your designs should sell themselves because they're good. And so in a way that's true, in a way that's not true. And so if you don't have the ability to sort of do another look from a high level point of view, and you're just really involved in your own designs and you think that you're amazing, which you probably are, but maybe you're not serving the customer the way you need to. But because you have this impression that you've got amazing designs, you maybe even have some track record of having sold physically the products or on Etsy or some other place, and then you get to Zazzle and crickets, right? And so if that's the case, and you keep thinking that the designs are perfect and they should be selling, that's going to be a lie that's going to not serve you after a while. You're going to get very bitter and upset that after a while, since you think your designs are good, you're not going to take action to fix it, that the sales are not coming in. And you are going to continue to believe that that's going to happen for you when it really will never. And so that will be something that will continue to be a lie for you. And then therefore, you're going to start to get disappointed and you're going to say things like, oh, Zazzle's terrible. And you're going to actually find other ways to distract yourself from the fact that your designs may not be suited for how the Zazzle customer shops. And so you can do things like, oh, Zazzle's keep changing things. It's so hard to find stuff. And when things get put into the marketplace, you can finally have your products found. And all of these things are going to start to be the focus rather than the fact that you just didn't put the products out there that really the Zazzle customer wants. And you have to help yourself to get over that and do something instead of believing that. We always still believe that you are a good designer. It's just that you yourself can't believe that every single one of your designs is supposed to give you $1 million. And so that's the most important part, is maybe that design just doesn't work on the Zazzle marketplace. And then what are you going to do instead? All right. So the second thing here in terms of the lies you can tell yourself is you are a creative and selling is not a part of being creative. I touched on that a little bit earlier because I truly believe that as well. I did number 1 and 2, really, because I thought that they were good enough and that people should just be flocking to them. As soon as someone saw them on the Zazzle marketplace, they should be shopping. And that should be as good as, just all of them should be bestsellers. And I really had to get over those because you kind of think maybe you're full of yourself, which is like what I felt like. But it's not really like a full of yourself scenario. It's more, these are the true lies that we believe as truths, and therefore we don't fix them, right? If they were added to our possibility section of our brain, then it's like, okay, well, maybe they're reasonably good, but the reason they're not selling right now is because something's not matching up. Or, I'm a creative and I should actually sell because who else to promote my things other than me? Like, I am the perfect person. I know my stuff the best. I have to be the one who's my biggest champion. And you also have to be your biggest champion. So the third lie is you should focus on making more Zazzle products instead of promoting them. I.e., you're not, like when you promote, you're selling, right? So I agreed with that initially too. I just cranked out so many products at the beginning of my Zazzle career. And for $90, I spent an entire year cranking out products. Why? Because I just cranked more products out. Not because I listened to what the marketplace wanted and delivered on that, did strategic planning and decided when things actually needed to be posted rather than other times. All those things that are actually part of a good business procedures that you would need to do for business management and for going into the marketplace and finding out what people need. Instead, I just kept making products. And I used to do the same thing, but now people ask me that because we're teaching people how to make money on Zazzle. And most of the time, the first question is, how many products do I have to have in my Zazzle store before I can see a sale? And unfortunately, the answer is, I don't know. Some people make a ton of products and then they finally make a sale. Others make 10 products and they've got a bestseller. Doesn't matter. It's up to you as to how you deliver what's necessary for you to get a sale. So the lie to you yourself is just keep making more products. And that's not true. You have to make strategic products and then you have to sell them by promoting. So if you've told yourself any of these lies, be really honest because it's really important. If you can't be honest about what I've just talked about and say, yeah, actually that resonates with me a little bit, even if you just say a little bit, then that's very important because that's going to be the change, the switch that's going to help you move past the issues that you might be having right now with getting your money that you get per month from the Zazzle platform to be higher, right? Right now it might be lower than you want. And this is how it's going to be higher because remember at the beginning we said the way we get paid is through royalties, and royalties only get paid out by Zazzle when your products sell. So we have to sell, and we can't make it scary for us. We have to get comfortable with it, even if we're uncomfortable, right? Rachel Hollis, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so that's what we're doing here. All right, so what happens when you lie to yourself? Well, first of all, you're creating a lot of excuses to convince yourself that selling is not necessary so that you can avoid that fear of rejection. You're also probably not going to have any sales or lower sales than what you expect and what you want. And finally, number 3, what I call is basically a combination of number 1 and 2, delusional disappointment. And I'm not being rude, not calling you delusional, I'm calling the situation delusional. Because we're disappointed and we think we've done our best and we've tried so hard and we put so much effort in and we worked so hard and stayed up late after our other day job to do this work and then nothing. And we're actually really upset about it. We'll swear. But we shouldn't be because we're actually not selling properly and we're not delivering properly so that people will buy. And so that's where the delusional comes in. It's like we are so convinced 100% that we're doing the right thing, but we're not. And then we take it personally, right? That's the other part that's delusional. We shouldn't take it personally. We should be just open-minded and go like, okay, hey, I did all this work. I didn't do the right thing. I have to do something else. And it's no biggie, right? It's like the only biggie is that I took some time off, that I wasted some time. But right now, Elke's talking to me and I realize I could just switch this around because she's got some options for me and I know that this can get better and I don't have to be in this cyclical lie anymore and I don't have to be so scared of sales because I have to allow sales to happen, otherwise I don't get paid, right? So if you're in agreement with me at this point, put something in the chat and say, yeah, I finally get it. This is like I'm holding myself back, right? And I want you to message me on Instagram at Elke Clark, or even for Jen, message her at Miss Jen Clark. And so that we can hear from you and hear that you resonated with this, because this is a huge step for you if this has been holding you back and now you finally agree that this might be a problem. And it doesn't have to be a problem, and it's just an issue. It's not derogatory in any way. It's just, this is how we move forward. This is how we become successful.
Have you heard about our Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Facebook group yet?
Are you a Zazzle designer who is struggling to find a community where you'll receive training, content, and be able to connect with like-minded creatives who also want to crush it on Zazzle? Then the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Facebook group is perfect for you.
Joining is easy. Click the link in the show notes and we will see you on the inside. Now let's get back to the show.
All right, so how are we going to overcome these fears of rejection and all the things that we create around in our little world to make it look as if, it's something else, but it really truly is this? Okay, so there's 2 things. First of all, what we can do is we can take actions so that we can put ourselves in a different situation in the Zazzle marketplace compared to where we are currently that's not serving us, right? So the thing that right now, if you have no sales or you have sales, but you want a lot more sales so that you can get paid out, you've got to take some action so that you can switch your situation, right? This quote goes with it's absurdity or insanity if you believe that the same actions are going to give you different results, right? So if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, that's insanity. It truly is. And it's just crazy because we think that there are different results. Just keep on working, keep on doing the same thing. But that's not really true. We have to take different actions. And these actions that I'm going to talk about are the ones that are actually going to change the situation in your Zazzle store and in the way you do your business. And then therefore, you're going to have a different situation occur. Right? You're going to do different things that result in different results, which are then going to present a different way of presenting you as an entity with your products to the customer. And the sales will be different. They'll start to come in because you're doing the type of things that need to be done in order to do sales. even though it's not, I'm going to show you even some that are not as hard to do as others. And that'll hopefully like let your shoulders down and make you feel better, because like it takes a little while to get used to this. But the idea here is to do the most that's possible that's aligned with us as introverts, right? And so I'm going to show you a lot of passive ones, so you don't actually have to directly person-to-person, face-to-face sell. And actually, that's one of the reasons why we love Zazzle, is because you don't have to do that. But you have to do the other things that normally would be there and are not currently in your store, acting the way they need to act on behalf of you when you're not face-to-face with someone. Okay, so then the other thing that you can do is you can reframe. So you can take actions. I'm going to tell you 3, and then you're going to reframe, and I'm going to give you 3 of those as well. And when I'm talking about reframe, I'm talking about mindset, that we have to reframe this fear of rejection because it's not serving us very well right now, because we need to do sales. We have to have sales, otherwise we don't get paid, because we only get paid when we get paid a royalty from a sale on the Zazzle marketplace. So let's move this to the next level here and take some action and some reframing, and you're going to be so happy when you finish this podcast. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is focus on the actions, and I'm going to give you 3. They're very simple, but they're very important as to how they're done and what you do. And if you want any more help with this, obviously we have some courses and training. Profit by Design Academy is definitely the way to go. It's the signature course that we have, and it's definitely the root base, and it'll get you started on all of these actions as well as the mindset. And then if you want to dive deeper with us, we have the Creative CEO Mastermind, and we start a session every January and every July. And we go for 6 months, and you can actually go for the whole year. Some people are on their 3rd session, which means a year and a half of being with us. Okay, so let's do the actions first. The first one is post original designs for sale and believe in yourself that you have these unique design offerings rather than just copying. And this is something that's really important, because as you move through the process, you come to the Zazzle marketplace, you go like, I have all these great designs, this is awesome. You put them up, it might be like paintings and artwork and photography and so on. And then you realize, well, they don't like my tulip photo the same way I do, because there's nobody buying my tulip photo, even though I put it on 1,000 products. And you go like, what's wrong? There must be something, like this must be my photo that's not okay, right? We go internal first before external. But the only part that we should do in terms of going internal is to say, I must not have added the photo correctly to the product. Or maybe they don't want a tulip. Maybe they want a pink tulip. Or maybe they want peonies rather than tulips. And this is truly where we need to take responsibility and ownership, because we need to read the market first. And we do that training in the Profit by Design Academy. But you can also do some of it on your own, because there's opportunities for you to go and do market research. You can do research on Google. You can go to stores, not anymore right now with COVID, but anything online. You can look at design trends in certain niches. You can look at colorways that are trending. You can look at anything, including things like my flower example. You can literally look to see what's the flower that's popular in 2021. Google it and find out, right? I mean, that is not in our Profit by Design Academy, but we do show you how to look through Google Trends and to analyze that information to best leverage it so that you can specifically focus in on what truly is something that people will be looking for in the first place. And then your product, because it's been made intentionally and targeted, it can then be, and then of course you also do the posting properly by adding the correct titles and tags so that the keywords are there for that to be searched. And the person who's currently in that trend and wants that pink peony can easily find your product, whether that's on the Zazzle marketplace or on Google, or if you do even external promotion, which we want you to do as well. That's like, let's say Pinterest, and that's another search engine. So all of a sudden you've got all these great ways for you to make a targeted specific product. And what's going to happen is that's also going to stop you from getting really negative and worried and have low self-worth that you do have something to deliver, and you have to just basically copy other people's, because that's the popular stuff. And so you should make some of the same. And I want you to not go there, because first of all, that's a copyright violation and against the law. And then secondly, you're never going to be a successful person if you just copy others, because that means you're going to always be dependent on the next bestseller that you have to copy in order to post that for sale in your store. And after a while, if your store just looks like all the copies of all the popular products, your Zazzle store will also get taken down. You might make a bit of money at the beginning, but that's only because no one's caught you yet. As soon as people find out that you're copying everyone else's products that they worked for a long time to build and create a unique design, then unfortunately what's going to happen is they're all going to gang up on you because they're all going to report you, and Zazzle is going to take your store down, and that's not going to serve you very well. And I want you to make lots of money selling your own unique original designs that are targeted to specific market needs. And therefore, because there's a need and because you've delivered a unique and different design, believe in yourself. You've got this. You know how to design and you know how to deliver, whether it's art, photography, graphic design, surface patterns, typography, pen and ink. You've got this. Line drawing. Just put up unique and specific designs, and then you'll have a chance. Right? And you target it with keywords. And that's already going to help you a lot with your ability to shift from a space where you're not selling anything to a space where you start to sell. And that will also start to imprint the fact that you can do it. Like all of our students that are our top sellers, for example, Brandon, 5 years, he was struggling on his own, and he definitely didn't think that he could ever make $100,000 in total, which he's already over succeeded. He's way past 100,000 as of being with us for 3 years. And now he's actually on track to make $200,000 in 1 year in 2021. Okay. He would have never believed that if he hadn't have taken the Profit by Design Academy and the Creative CEO Mastermind. And the reason that we're talking about these trainings is because I can't tell you this in one podcast. But he shifted from a no seller and wondering if, his stuff was not good enough and he wasn't a great designer. And that's the fear of selling more, to this is working because I'm getting sales. And so I feel confident selling more. And that's what I want you to feel like, is to shift from that. I'm not selling anything. It must be me. Fear of selling more, getting myself out there, trying new things. And I want to just have you ditch that and start to do the right thing, target things properly, target market properly, label things properly, and deliver on a design that people will really want. And then you'll start to see sales. And because of that, your confidence will increase and you won't feel like sales are scary anymore. Sales will switch to being fun because you get money when you make a sale. So you'll want to do more and it'll be awesome. Okay, so that's number one. I know I took a long time with that, but it's really important. And then the second one is put organic or passive promotion methods into place. And I kind of touched on that because when you're posting your product, the titles and tags and the keywords that you use are actually your best organic passive sales buddies, right? Let's call them sales buddies. It means that you can literally passively sell just because what I've talked about in the first part, where you know that that's something popular. And so you're going to deliver on that popularity, that trend. And so people are searching for that. And if you have the right keywords, they'll find your products and they may like your design. And if they do, because you've done a really good job of designing and delivering on what they want to see when they get the design in front of them, then they'll buy, right? So you've got a really great organic way to do promotion. Now, and that's all it is, titles and tags. The next part is to do a little bit more involving marketing and branding and structuring your store and structuring your collections. And that, unfortunately, is a little bit beyond our podcast because it's already pretty long. But if you're interested, the Profit by Design Academy gets you started on all of those. And then the Creative CEO Mastermind takes it to the next level to get people to 6 figures. And so then the third way that you can take action is to really do that social media selling. And everyone's going like, no, I don't want to be on Instagram, or I don't want to be on Facebook. I hate it. That's fine. What you can do is be on Pinterest. And if you pin from the Zazzle platform when you make the product, then you right away pin using the button to go to Pinterest, that little red button, and you put it on a board on your Pinterest account, you've already made such a big effort to get your product onto another social media platform, which is Pinterest. I know it's a little bit different than other social media platforms, but it's still out there, and it's another search engine. And so again, what you're doing is creating a passive, organic option for you to have your promotion and selling done for you by how you set up and structured your product in the first place. And if you have, as I said, delivered on the trend, delivered on what they want, and titled and tagged everything properly with proper keywords, then when you pin to Pinterest, you are again going to have another opportunity to have a search engine that you can be part of with your products on the platform called Pinterest. All right. So those are the 4 actions. So let's do the review. So you're going to post original designs for sale that are unique, deliver on a trend or need, and that the design's going to be unique and interesting and good quality. And then the tags and the titles are going to be helping you with your passive promotion, which is number 2, which makes selling a lot easier because you don't have to say, buy my product, please. You say, you need this product, here it is, right? It switches it out completely and makes you actually feel very powerful about selling instead of feeling scared. And then the third thing is sell on social media. And the easiest way to do that is to use Pinterest and make sure that your keywords are really good, especially in your title, so that your Pinterest pin can be found. And believe it or not, Pinterest is a place where people go shopping. And so if they can see your product pinned on there, they can put it on their board and they can click through to Zazzle and they can buy already in the shopping mode. And so when they get taken from your link to the Zazzle marketplace, they're already in a buying mood and they want to buy that. So there's no need to do all the icky salesy stuff. You've already served them by making sure that your product was pinned in the Pinterest platform so that they could find it and then they could be very grateful for you for having that product there so they could find it and then they can go buy it on Zazzle. That's easy, right? So 3 huge actions that you can take that aren't actually very huge in terms of work, but very targeted and to get the most bang for your buck for changing the actions or changing the situation with some actions that you can take today. So I hope you get to do those as soon as you're finished listening to this podcast. Now let's go into one more thing because I do like to talk about mindset. And as much as like even the actions are there to change your mindset about selling, so it's no longer scary. But what you want to do also, and I'm going to give you 3 pointers and you can think about them because you can't really just go into them here. You have to be part of our coaching program in some way to really work on them a little bit harder. And it doesn't just happen overnight. But I'm going to ask you to think about these 3 things, okay? So when you don't ask for the sale, you're receiving rejection already. We're always thinking, oh, I'm too scary to sell. But actually, by not asking, you're already receiving rejection. You just think, oh, that's going to happen anyway. But it's because you're actually already receiving rejection. So if we can reframe that and say, well, that wasn't as painful. Like when we're not doing anything, we're not asking for the sale, it doesn't seem to be as painful as when we actually have to ask. So why? Why is that different in terms of the pain? It's not. And so make the other one just as painful. Then there's equal pain no matter what you do. And so then all of a sudden when you start to take action, you're actually going to have less pain by asking than by not actually getting any sales because you're already being rejected because you're not asking, right? So wrap your head around that one. The second one is know that selling is the way you will earn money and it's part of the process to receive money. So you have to sell. Okay. It's kind of like you have to crack open your computer and you have to post designs on Zazzle. Otherwise you can't sell because if you don't have no products, you can't sell. Right. And it's the same as if you don't ask for the sale, you can't get the sale. Right. Part of receiving that royalty is by making a sale because Zazzle won't pay you out unless you make a sale. Selling is part of the process, so you have to accept that. And it's just part of doing business. And if you don't make it such a big deal and start to downplay it a little bit, and you just go, it's just as much as what I need to do elsewhere, like to get the rest of my Zazzle business working, then you realize, okay, it's just something I have to do. It's kind of like when you're at home and you have to eat breakfast, right? Or if you don't eat breakfast, you at least have to eat lunch if you get hungry because you didn't eat breakfast. But at some point, you got to eat. That's part of living. Whereas if you want to do this business, it's part of making the money on the Zazzle platform. If you want to earn money, you have to sell, right? Okay. The third thing is replace the negative emotions associated with selling into positive ones through affirmations. And just make up your own. You can make up as many as you want, or just go with one that kind of ties everything together. but you've got to get rid of anything that you feel is holding you back, like some of those lies that you were dealing with, and rather switch to a positive affirmation so that you can say, like, selling is easy, or selling is good, or selling is going to make me get money. Because when I sell, I get a royalty paid out, and it's part of the process. Like, all of these can be affirmations. And I think the more you hear them, the more you'll realize that it's okay, right? It's not about you. It's not about your fear of rejection. It's about the process of earning money through sales on the Zazzle platform. And taking action to increase the frequency of success when selling, to imprint the new assumptions associated with selling so that everything feels good and that you have positive emotions rather than negative for those selling actions. Right? So by combining the actions that I talked about earlier, making the good original designs that are targeted and aligned with what people are looking for, the passive promotion by having good titles and tags, and then selling on social media, which means pinning to Pinterest, those are not salesy. And if you start taking those actions more consistently, the weight will be shifted from those inactions to the positive actions, and those positive actions will lead to the higher possibility of you receiving sales more frequently. And that way you start to feel more confidence. Each sale will boost your positivity, and you'll also feel better about the fact that you're taking actions that actually truly, that will get you somewhere, rather than just trying things willy-nilly and not being able to get that result that you want, right? Okay, so thank you so much for being on the podcast for so long. This was a really important topic. I think I would recommend you listen to this more than once. And because we really want you to understand that this is something that we have created as a society, this enigma around sales. And it's so frustrating because sales is natural. Sales is a transaction that happens because you've provided a service and they're paying you for that valuable service. And it's not icky. It's not bad. Receiving money is good. And we create this really strange, weird way to make it sound like it's bad because we have fear of rejection and we have fear of even like accepting money. We didn't even get to that. But there's so many aspects to this. Maybe I'll do another podcast. Let me know if you want another podcast about the fear of receiving money. That's a really big one. But in this podcast, what we covered was, what's the real fear, right? Is it the sales that's a fear? No, it's the rejection that's a fear. And then the lies that you tell yourself about selling so you don't have to sell, but that are actually very harmful to you because they're not allowing you to achieve what you want to achieve. And it gets to be really disappointing and disheartening, and you're not going to end up in a good headspace, even though you could be. Like, look at Brandon, 5 years of in a bad headspace. What am I doing wrong? Into going into the Profit by Design Academy and making $10,000 in his first year, when all he did was make $500 a year for 5 years, and that wasn't very fun, right? And then now he's made over $150,000 take home. And so it's just because the lies. He wasn't like, it's a bad word, but basically it's just something you're telling yourself that isn't really true. I don't like the word lie, but Brandon was saying, this is all I can do. But then my course came about, the Profit by Design Academy. He saw it, that it was possible to be part of it, because I only opened this up 3 years ago. And then when he took it, then he opened up his eyes to realize that he had a lot of untruths that he had to undo, and realize that it wasn't him that wasn't capable. It was that he wasn't taking the right actions. Okay? And then so what happens when you lie to yourself about selling? We covered that as well. And obviously what happens is you don't make a lot of sales and you start to get really miserable, right? And really doubtful as to your own abilities, but that's such a bad headspace to be in. And it's probably not true, right? It's probably not true. And then the last point is how to overcome these fears by doing certain actions and reframing your mindset. So thank you so much for being here, and let me know what you think about this podcast, because it's really important. You can answer all these questions about, like, how many products do I make? What products do I make? What niche should I be in? Those are all the bits, but this is the big stuff, and the big stuff has to be fixed first. Otherwise, you can't handle the little stuff. So thank you so much for listening, and see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to The Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur with Jen and Elke Clark.
We hope this episode has given you actionable steps to start and scale your Zazzle business so that you can have the passive online income to have location and time freedom to live your dream life.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Each review helps us reach more creative entrepreneurs like you working to create a profitable e-commerce business.
And don't forget to take a screenshot and share it on your Instagram stories and tag us at Miss Jen Clark and at Elke Clark. We'd love to hear your biggest takeaways from today's episode. See you back here next week.